Hello and welcome to episode 56 of Hitting the Bar, the football podcast. I'm Chris Karle.
And I'm Geoff Saunders.
Well, Geoff, a record-breaking, ridiculous weekend of football to look at. But first, your trivia question.
Okay, simple one this week. Mo Salah hit a hat-trick in Liverpool's opening game of the season. Who was the last Liverpool player to do that?
Okay, simple but not easy to answer. Simple to understand at least. Let's start with the games this weekend were absolutely ridiculous score-wise. One of the highest ever collection of goals in the Premier League history. Everton 5, West Brom 2. West Brom had a player sent off, quite a few players sent off at the weekend, but that is 2 out of 2 for Everton.
Yeah, Everton have looked very good. James Rodriguez this week was as good as the papers said he had been the week before. He was genuinely very good this week. Calvert-Lewin looks like a real centre-forward, fast and strong. He's definitely staying more central, which gives him more opportunities, and Everton are playing very well.
Yeah, as you said, Rodriguez, got a goal, played well. Calvert-Lewin, again, brilliant. But have Everton got the staying power?
Well, that's going to be the question, isn't it? It is very early days. Do they have a big enough squad to ride them through late January, February, early March, when it all starts to get a bit difficult? We won't know till we get there. Putting the points on the board now, so good luck to them.
Personally, I think Everton will fade and the stronger top six will start to find their form. Although 5-2 was the result of that one. They beat Tottenham 1-0 in the first game. But Leeds 4, Fulham 3. That's another 4-3, but a reverse this time for Leeds. But the three clubs that came up, Fulham, West Brom, there 5 goals conceded in that game, and Leeds have conceded between them 22 goals in 2 games. But at least Leeds got 3 points. But they can't continue like that. I can't see them getting this top 10 finish that our Leeds fans' friends think they're going to get. Because if they keep conceding like that, especially against Fulham, teams like that, I think there is a problem, isn't there, with the defence at Leeds?
Well, if they keep doing what they're doing now, then they'll be on, 19 times 3, 57 points at the season. They'll take that. 57 points with what will they be? A goal difference of about plus 90 and conceded 90. But 57 points on the board, they'll take that.
I suppose they would, but my point is I think they'll sort of... They won't win every other game because they won't be playing Fulham every other week. Fortunately, they won't be playing Liverpool every other week either. They're great to watch. I read a lovely story about Bielsa. Because we know that his tactics and his training are brutal, but his tactics are, shall we say, very, very in-depth. But there is a story that in one game when he was in Argentina, he instructed his goalkeeper that every time he got the ball, he was to kick it up the field and out of play. Because he'd done some research and discovered that the opponents were very vulnerable when they had their own throw-ins. So everything was considered by Bielsa, but it's a joy to watch him on the touchline. But what about Manchester United, who we all thought were going to make a strong start to the season? They were at home to Crystal Palace. I think we all had 2-0 for that one, or 2-1. But apart from Geoff, who's waving at me, he said it would be a draw. So you were nearer than anybody else. But who can believe Man United losing on the opening day of the season to Palace at home?
Well, losing, no, I predicted a draw. And the reason why I predicted a draw is that only Liverpool have more points against the top 6 away from home than Crystal Palace have since 2016. Palace always have a good performance against one of the top sides in them every year, and I just had a feeling it would be too early for Manchester United and this would be it. What impressed me about Manchester United was their manager, after the fuss about the penalty and the retaking of the penalty, him refusing to blame that for their defeat. He said we just weren't good enough, which I think, well played. That's exactly what we saw.
Yes, well played Solskjaer, not so much Manchester United. Their new signing Donny van der Beek did score, but then Zaha went and got the penalty, as you say. Let's talk about that penalty because it was quite interesting. For several reasons. Hodgson said that after I took the first penalty, he, the manager, then told Zaha to take the retake. And the reason Hodgson said was that he'd had several incidents in his career where a player had taken and missed a penalty in a game and then gone on to miss the next penalty. So he decided not to give Ayer the pressure. But that whole thing with the penalty was retaken because De Gea had his foot off the line. I've not seen that for a long time, that penalty being retaken like that.
No, while it was down only to the referee or linesman to judge, they never gave it, even though everybody could see the goalkeeper had moved. And it's a question of fact. De Gea had moved off the line. And I really don't understand how people like Gary Neville can be whinging about it, apart from the fact that, of course, it was Manchester United, his team. But it's a question of fact. Were his feet on the line? No, they were both off the line. Therefore, the penalty gets retaken. That's the start and finish of the argument. The penalty award itself, that is not a fault of VAR. VAR applied the rules completely correctly. It's a stupid rule, but that's not the fault of VAR. And the sooner we go back to the old law that we used to have, where it had to be hand to ball and there had to be intent, and you leave it to the referee to judge, the better. But VAR applied the rules correctly in both instances.
Yes, we saw a few instances of the ball hitting the arm rather than the other way around, or bouncing off an opposition member's toe. But I mean, the same people who were saying we need more accuracy in the game are now complaining that they're getting it. And also, to be honest, Manchester United did benefit from a handball that was completely not deliberate against PSG in the Champions League, where the guy had his back to the play, so couldn't possibly have known that the ball was anywhere near his hand or arm. So I think really you would need to not complain about those kind of things. It hit his arm, therefore it's a penalty.
Yeah, and there's been quite a lot of research done on VAR, looking at the decisions with panels of referees saying whether VAR got it right or not. And in the couple of years where we've had it, the accuracy of decisions has gone up from 92.3% to 98.5%. So how can you complain? The right decisions are getting made. Problem with it last season was that it wasn't the referee making the decision, and I think now that referees themselves can go to the monitor on the side and have a look, I think that's a big improvement, because the referee is in the game. He understands the game. He's there in the emotion of it. He knows who's been niggly and dirty and fouling and who hasn't, and it must be the referee who makes the decision. Now, using technology to help him do it, as happened in the Chelsea match, I've got no problem with that. The right decision was made.
Yes, we'll come to that Chelsea one in a moment, but I mean, I like the fact that we're now seeing referees go to the pitchside monitor. We saw that actually happen 3 or 4 times this weekend. Thank goodness, finally. As you say, the referee's in the game. He's part of the whole flow of action, if you like. He's part of the drama. So he feels when people are trying to get a penalty out of nothing, or he feels when a player is being fouled a lot or being chased down a lot. So he gets the feeling from it. He understands what's going on. So yeah, all right, fine, right decision. Went against Man United. Man United having a penalty against them at home. Who'd have thought? But Crystal Palace, I mean, not only did they beat Manchester United, they beat them 3-1. 3! I think that's quite incredible, and that means that Palace have now won their first 2 games. The first time they've done that, their best ever start for donkey's years. Does that mean they're good and they're going to do, I'm obviously not going to mount a challenge for anything, but does that mean that they're going to have the pressure off and they're not going to be sort of worrying about relegation? Or is it just a good start?
It's just a good start. They've got 6 points on the board. Congratulations, well done. But it doesn't mean anything at this stage of the season. No, that's why you play it over 38 games. The number of times West Ham have won the league in September, I've lost count of. Sadly, it goes on till May.
Well, yes, you say that, but this season, you're probably lucky it does go on till May, because you're in a relegation battle after 2 games. We'll come to you next, because Arsenal 2, West Ham 1. That's 2 out of 2 for Arsenal, unfortunately. Do we think we've seen improvement at Arsenal under Arteta? You and I don't. Everybody else seems to think there has been.
No, I think there's an improvement, but it's nowhere near as big as the press are making out. I mean, they're massively overstating the impact, and they were very, very lucky to get a win at the weekend. West Ham deserved a draw, and why West Ham did not get a penalty for handball for exactly the same thing that went against Manchester United, I don't understand. It applied the same law to both things, and either you cannot have a different decision. One is right, so the other must be right. So you cannot have one right and one wrong from the same thing. It's nonsense. But for West Ham, their next 5 league games are against the sides who finished last season 7th, 5th, 6th, 2nd and 1st. So as they say up north, there's nothing down for you. We could easily be bottom in 5 weeks' time.
I think you'll do it better than that. I think you'll do it quicker than that. I think you can manage that a lot quicker, but it's not a good start for West Ham.
Yeah, West Ham have 3 problems. They have an unbalanced squad. They have lots of talented wingers and inside forwards, and aside from them, they have workhorses. They have a bad manager who won't pick the best players, and they have terrible owners. So you can't really see where any good news is coming from, because if you've got an unbalanced squad and a bad manager, you're going to struggle. They bought Sebastian Haller for 42 million, and Haller is a one goal in 2 match centre forward, but he's never been a sole centre forward, number 9 target man. He plays with someone else, and Moyes just flat refuses to play him like that. So he tried him out as a lone number 9, said, "Oh, you're crap, and then now he won't pick him. Until we get a manager who sends the side out, picks the best players, sends the side out to be positive, we're going to struggle, and it's going to be a long season. Unless this American consortium can come up with more than 400 million to buy the club.
You'd like to see Gold, Sullivan and Brady out of West Ham. You're not a fan of theirs at all. Or a fan of David Moyes. So you're looking for a complete change.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, last season in one particular match, he clapped and he was happy that we'd only lost narrowly in a match. No, you send your team out to win the match. You don't have to be stupid about it, but at least put your best 11 players on the pitch. And Moyes hasn't done that once. And this weekend was just another classic case in point. It was just ridiculous to take Arsenal that close with what was palpably not the best 11 he could put out there. What would have happened if we'd actually put our best 11 out there and attacked them? It's ludicrous. Also, you'd have to say, as far as the Wanderers are concerned, they played 2 matches against teams that are going to be in the bottom 6 or 7, and I'm saying 6 or 7 hopefully because West Ham will be there. I think Fulham will be relegated. But how can you make or produce the gushing tributes that they have to the groundsman after those 2 performances? He hasn't played anybody good yet.
Yes, and we know that Fulham is our tip to go down, and they sort of brushed them aside. It wasn't they didn't blow them away or anything like that. They got past Fulham in a workmanlike way, and they narrowly, as you say, beat West Ham. With a better manager, possibly West Ham could have won that, or at least got a draw. So Arsenal, yes, no, something, nothing great. But the next day we had something quite incredible from Tottenham Hotspur. Now, before we talk about my team, Tottenham, and we talk about the incredible, especially second half, against Southampton, and a new look Tottenham as far as tactics go, we do have to discuss the big news. Gareth Bale has signed for Tottenham. It's a 1-year loan, probably going to be extended to a second year and beyond. He's 31, but we know how brilliant he is. Now, of course, all those people who were saying a few months ago that he's wasted at Real Madrid, it's a shame, he's been terribly treated, he's such a talent. Some of them are now saying, well, he's past it, he's lost his pace and everything, look at him, he's injured. Sour grapes, of course, but I think that would be a great signing for any club. And, of course, Jeff, how happy I am about that.
Yeah, I think most of the comment has been completely ignorant because, to be fair, nobody knows how well he's going to play. He's spent most of last season sat on the bench. He needs to get match fit, and then we'll see. Personally, I think it's a great signing. For me, I think it's a great shame that there isn't a crowd in the stadium to welcome him, because he's going to lift the whole club and lift the wider part of the club, including the supporters and everything. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic deal for them and for the Premier League, actually. Opposition supporters are going to enjoy watching him play as well. Not quite the same way that Maicon did for Inter Milan.
Yes, I think it is definitely a shame people won't be able to watch him for the time being. Jose Mourinho, of course, being Jose Mourinho, was asked about the signing, and he said, well, when he's fit, he's among the best in the world, which is fair enough, because, he is carrying an injury. He is, taken some battering. He's won 2 Champions Leagues on his own. He's been put through the ringer. So, and he obviously, turns out and carries Wales when he plays for them. When he's fit, he's the best. But I think he's easing him in, isn't he? He doesn't want to say, we're going to start winning games now, Gareth's here. And he has said, I have got a full team as well. There are other players in the squad, let's talk about them. But I think it's a fantastic signing. And you say it's going to boost everybody. Did it boost Tottenham immediately? Because they went against Southampton, and I don't know. It was like in a parallel universe where the attacking Tottenham were playing. Because those weren't Mourinho tactics, were they?
No, they weren't. Tottenham were very, very much more positive and showed much more energy than they had before, at any time, in fact, under Mourinho. Now, how much of that was down to starting Ndombele, who is a very attack-minded midfield player, who does like to get the game by the scruff of the neck and force it forwards, or how much of it was a reaction to how Southampton played? Because I thought Southampton started very well and were very positive. So maybe those two things combined to up the activity level from Tottenham. They certainly look a much better team when they're positive and when they attack and when they attack with speed. And the classic example is that Champions League semi-final against Ajax, where it's just like two boxers trading blows. Okay, well, you have a go now, and then we'll have a go, and we'll see what happens. So I thought Southampton, in one respect, were very unlucky because they did contribute to a great first half, but they got blown away in the second.
Yes, I think blown away is definitely the word for the first half. Yeah, it was a very even contest, very attacking-minded from both teams. Ndombele was his turn to set up Kane, to set up Son, was fantastic. He had a great first half. He was taken off at half-time. It was the best I've seen him play for Tottenham since probably when he first signed for us. He's not been great in between. What's happened there, I don't know. Mourinho has criticised him, but he did say this last week that, he's been very good in training. He's really trying hard. And so he got a start, and he went out to prove his manager that he was worth it. Got taken out at half-time. Then Lo Celso came on, who also had a great game. So that's two of our signings from the last year or so, proving themselves worthy. But the big stat of the day, of course, was Son getting 4 goals. 4. But all set up by Harry Kane, who did say after the match that Mourinho and the team had looked at Southampton and how they were going to play and decided that Kane would play deeper and play Son through, which is exactly what he did. But was he playing a sort of Gareth Bale role there, Harry Kane?
No. Harry Kane was playing a number 10. I mean, Bale is going to line up, one imagines, as pretty much an out-and-out left winger. So there will have to be a change in how Son plays, because he starts in that position normally. But equally, he could, you could start Bale wide right, cutting inside the way Arjen Robben used to. So I think it's a nice set of problems to have, and Mourinho's clever enough to sort it out and make it work. We just hope that he won't turn Bale back into a fullback.
Yeah, that is how he started out until somebody very clever, I think it was Redknapp, claimed credit for that. Saw how great he was at going forward. But I thought Harry Kane, 4 assists, which he then admitted was double what he got all last season. That combination between Kane and Son is, I think I read somewhere, almost telepathic, but quite beautiful. I mean, maybe it wasn't a Bale role, maybe it was kind of like a Rooney role, but he was pinging the ball to Son, and 4 assists was quite incredible, and got one himself, Harry Kane. Great game. I think if Tottenham play like that, I don't think we've got any problem finishing in the top 6.
No, I agree. If Tottenham play like that, with that level of energy, then they'll do extremely well and be top 6. They've just got to keep it up, and that always is the difficulty under Mourinho, isn't it? Because he does pick on players, and at the moment he appears to be picking on Dele Alli and trying to take every opportunity to embarrass him in public. Like yesterday, posting this picture of Harry Kane along with a comment that said something like, "Oh, you see, this is what a team player is all about." In other words, you're not. I think we're into where we would normally be in year 3 with Mourinho. We shall see what happens around about Christmas, because that's when it usually falls apart for him.
Well, he took over in December, so it'll be a year. Let's move on to one of the other games. Following Southampton 2, Tottenham 5. Then we had Newcastle against Brighton. Newcastle, who beat West Ham on the opening day and looked good for it, were, I think I'm going to use a word that you see in the papers a lot, abject. They lost 3-0 to Brighton, and deservedly so.
Yeah, regarding the Newcastle-West Ham game, I disagreed with you and said the problem was West Ham just didn't turn up. I don't think Newcastle were necessarily any worse than the week before, but they were just playing a side that are extremely well coached by a very, very good coach in Potter. Knew what they were doing and executed extremely well. Lamptey did everything that he didn't do the week before. He made those fantastic runs, beat the player, but this time set things up, and Brighton scored. I thought he was wonderful, and he only cost £1.8 million. You do not have to spend a fortune to get good players. Just go to Chelsea's academy and pick someone who isn't going to get a game for Chelsea, and that's what you get. He's a very, very good player. Whether he can last a whole season like that, don't know. But Potter is a great manager, an excellent coach, and they deservedly won. The problem for Newcastle, they did not have a single shot on target in the whole match.
That is absolutely terrible, considering, they've signed a couple of strikers, haven't they, or attack-minded players. Not one single shot on target. That is just terrible. That is terrible. But Brighton 3-0 away from home, and I like Lamptey. I like that kind of player. He's quick, he's exciting to watch, but the final product in the first game, like you said, wasn't there. But it certainly was this time. He's a good player. I think he's a good prospect, and he's English. But he's very, very young. But he looks even younger than he actually is. He looks like he should have been playing on his bike in the cul-de-sac or something.
Yeah, whenever I saw him, I kept thinking, does your mum know you're out?
And then we had a game between the champions, the current champions, defending champions of the league, Liverpool, away at Chelsea, who spent, heading to 300 million on new players. A couple of them did play, 3 or 4 of them didn't, but it was actually a masterclass from Liverpool, really. I think they found it just too easy to be honest. Chelsea, in the sense that Chelsea had a player sent off, and for me, Chelsea were too cautious and allowed Liverpool to win in many ways. I don't think you agree with me, I can see from your face, but I think Chelsea were far too cautious, and I think Liverpool found it a little bit too easy.
Okay, I'll put the counter argument. Liverpool, you can reckon, will beat most sides 2-0. They beat a 10-man Chelsea 2-0 with one gift of a goal from Kepa. So all those who've been criticising Lampard for his defence have got to turn around and say, well, actually, that wasn't too bad as a defensive performance. And I think Werner played extremely well. Havertz tried, but he was played out of position. Why you would have Mount at inside left and Havertz at inside right instead of switching them, I do not understand. Because I think Havertz and Werner are going to cause havoc if Havertz is played in his correct position. It was only 2-0. And it was not a great Liverpool performance because they only put 2 goals past 10 men. And one of those was a gift from Kepa. What he thought he was doing, I don't know. I can't get my brain into that place. I mean, the thing he should have done is launch it immediately. There was no. I cannot get to what was he possibly thinking he was going to do. Now, you can execute badly. It was a good idea, but he got it wrong. But what the hell was his idea? It's extraordinary. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, go on YouTube, have a look at that goal, and try and work out what Kepa thought he was doing.
Yes, I mean, there are, I suppose, not an infinite number of different types of shots that can come at you, and not an infinite number of reactions you can have. So when they're training, if it happens like this, you've got 3 options. If it comes to your left and is rising, you've got 4 options. So they know the different plays in the different situations. And the one that he got wrong, his approach to it was not in any of those books of how to approach that situation. He invented something completely new, and as you say, it was just, what was he doing? I disagree with you. I think that it was only 2-0 for a team at home who were at 3rd place all season until the last couple of games, who finished 4th, who've bought a load of players, who are supposedly challenging for the title. To say they only lost 2-0, okay, they only had 10 men, but still I think I just felt that Chelsea were far too cautious. I'm hoping they play like that against Tottenham, because if Tottenham turn out like that against Southampton, we might have a chance of a draw. However, Kepa, what have they got to do with him? Because he's 72 million, you told me earlier. The most expensive goalkeeper in the world. He's just awful. I mean, he's just awful.
Yeah, his save percentage is 54% roundabout, which is the lowest save percentage of any goalkeeper since stats began, and about 22% below Mendy, who's supposed to be coming in, and at least 20% below what he was doing at Real Sociedad, where they got him from. So I don't know. This was the player who was so full of himself he refused to come off the pitch when he was being substituted by Sarri. He's so convinced he was great. Well, what on earth? What is he thinking of? What is he doing? And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Only Manchester City conceded more shot per match than Chelsea last season, and only Liverpool conceded more shots on target. So there actually isn't a big problem with the defence. The big problem is that he only saved 54% of those shots.
Yeah, I think it's 53.7 or something, but the thing is, that's almost every other shot that is taken against Kepa in goal for Chelsea is a goal, or he misses it. That is a terrible, and as his rival coming in, Mendes, who said nearly 75%. So you've got a 3/4 chance or whatever of actually not conceding a goal, or 75% chance of not conceding a goal. I don't know what Lampard can do with him, because there's only so many times you can say I've got faith in him, and then he lets you down again. That whole thing about refusing to come off when Sarri was the manager completely undermined Sarri as a manager, made him look foolish, and it was a disgraceful behaviour from a football player. I've noticed a sort of tendency among goalkeepers, Geoff, of late, that there used to be a time when goalkeepers looked super confident. David Seaman, Pat Jennings, they ruled their penalty area. They were like a sort of mini captain in their little area. You do as that goalkeeper says. If he shouts mine, it's mine. If he says get it out, get it out. Now, goalkeepers, to me, look frightened half the time.
Yeah, of course, if a goalkeeper shouts mine, then it is an indirect free kick to the other side. You're not allowed to say mine. No player is. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. And he, every time there's a cross, he flaps at it. And, well, he certainly doesn't look worth half the money they paid for him, even a quarter of it. and they're going to take Mendy for a third of the money they paid for him. So, most goalkeepers will be up in the 70 to late 70% for shots saved. Most of them. And, some are better than others, but that's where you've got to be. Down around 50% is absolutely shocking.
Yeah, so there's a big keeper problem with Chelsea, as you've said all last season. And I'm watching that game against Liverpool. Maybe they wouldn't have lost 2-0 if they'd had a different keeper. Possibly that's why they look very defensive to me, is because they had to be, because he's rubbish. Maybe they felt we've all got to stay back there and help him. Maybe that's the reason. But however, Chelsea, I think, will improve. There's no doubt about that. They'll get the new players into the team and they will improve. But Liverpool, do they look like they're going to go on and win it again so far? To me, I'm a little bit doubtful that they're the team they were last year so far.
Well, they're certainly not going to run away with it like they did last year. I think they will still win the league, but it'll be much, much closer. And nobody's going to run away with it at all. If you wanted a prediction, I'd go for Manchester United beating Manchester City to second place, actually. And for City, it will all depend on how many games Aguero plays, I think. Although, last night they did well without him. But historically, it's always been the case that they do much, much less well without Aguero. So we'll see.
Interesting, because we do think Man United are going to do well this season. And then we watched them against Crystal Palace and they were terrible, Manchester United. Again, Pogba, what's the point? What is the point of Pogba? But Donny van der Beek, good signing. And maybe they'll get Sancho and maybe they will improve. They can't get much worse. But the first two games, you don't know. You don't know. You and I then watched Leicester against Burnley and then decided at half-time that it was just too boring to carry on. It finished 4-2, though. So that was a bit weird. But again, lots of goals, and Leicester win 2 in a row. That was Burnley's first game, so difficult to really say anything about Burnley. But Leicester also looking good.
Yeah, they're top of the league, I think, aren't they, Leicester? Burnley's problem, of course, is lack of depth. They were without Ben Mee and James Tarkowski in the centre of defence. Jimmy Dunn played. I think it was his first match in the Premier League. Kevin Long, I think he's played a total of 36 matches, but most of the time he's been at Burnley, he's been away on loan somewhere in the Championship, not in the Premier League. I think if Sean Dyche can get Burnley into anywhere near the top, let's say halfway, I think it would be a fantastic management achievement, because they're very, very short of the sort of players, quality players that they need. And if they do sell Tarkowski, which might happen since that he's been talking to West Ham, but they just haven't agreed the fee, I think he's going to be in real trouble. Timothy Castagna, the new right or left back, whichever he plays for Leicester, looked very, very good again. He looks an excellent player. But Leicester, top of the league. And last season, first half of the season, Leicester were fantastic, right up there in the top 4 all the way. Second half, they disappeared completely. So the challenge for Leicester is to keep it up for the whole of the season, and I think that means keeping Ndidi fit for the whole of the season, because last season I think they only had half a dozen games where Leicester's top 5 players played at the same time.
Yep, so Leicester are top of the league currently. I think you're right. I don't think that first game for Burnley doesn't prove anything one way or another. They scored 2 goals away at Leicester. They lost 4-2. For me, Burnley are never going to be in contention for relegation. I think they're going to be okay. Having seen West Ham twice, I think West Ham will give them a run for the money on that one. However, I think Burnley will be okay. Then, last night, because we're recording this on a Tuesday, Aston Villa beat 10 men Sheffield United. Again, player got sent off in similar circumstances to Christensen for Chelsea. What quite kind of interested me, we talked about Kepa, the keeper there, for Chelsea. Martinez was had his debut for Aston Villa, signed from Arsenal for 17 million, saved a penalty. What a great debut.
Well, yeah, if you're a goalkeeper, then surely the equivalent of a striker scoring a hat-trick is you save a penalty and you keep a clean sheet, and he did both. And more than that, was very, very good with the ball at his feet. Dean Smith, is it, manager of Villa, said that he did exactly what we wanted him to do and what we brought him to do. So well done all round.
And Jack Grealish has signed a new contract for Villa for 5 years. Not that the actual length of it means anything, but he's committed to his club. He's been there since he was 8. Is that because nobody came in with the right offer, or just because he loves this club?
Well, I think it's very clear that he does love the club, but also very often the players will do this and sign a much bigger contract, and the club will pay much, much more money than maybe they can afford, because they know that at some point in the next season they're going to sell the player, and because he's on a much bigger contract, the transfer fee will be much higher. And I think that's what's going on with Grealish at the moment. The transfer market is bizarre because so few clubs have got any money. as a result of all this nonsense lockdown rubbish. So it's been a very strange season, and only clubs like Chelsea, who've got deep pockets, and the strange things that have conspired together to help them with financial fair play, mean they can buy big. But lots of other clubs, the two big Spanish clubs, have not bought anybody. Well, Pjanic, who went off as an exchange deal, is pretty much the only one. And Real Madrid bought Odegaard back on loan, from the loan, rather. So it's been a very, very strange year.
Real Madrid have got Gareth Bale sort of off their books. They've got half his wages cut. They've sold Reguilón to Tottenham as well. Great deal, by the way. Sort of passed under the radar on the same day as Gareth Bale. Fantastic signing for Tottenham, I think that is. Which, again, money off the books, I suppose, and nobody coming in. Then we had Wolverhampton Wanderers, who actually beat Sheffield United on the opening day of the season. They were at home to Manchester City, which we thought would be an interesting contest, because Wolves could be top 6, and you said maybe even top 4 contenders. They nearly did it. They were 2-0 down. They got back to 2-1, and then City scored again. As you say, without Aguero, City are a little bit different. But were Wolves unlucky not to get a draw out of that?
I think you'd be stretching a bit to say they're unlucky not to get a draw. They did play extremely well in that second half. And I think we saw enough to see that when they played Traore as an attacking player, not as a wing-back, which he started out at yesterday, then they're extremely dangerous. Fabio Silva came on and looked very good, which is very encouraging, since they spent 40 million on him. I still think Wolves are going to have a very, very good season. And City, that first half from City, particularly from De Bruyne, was superb.
Yes, I mean, you kind of expect that from De Bruyne. He's one of the best in the world in his position, if not the best. You mentioned there Silva, but there's another Silva who's kind of making headlines, Geoff.
Yeah, David Silva came on as sub for Real Sociedad the other day and was superb, as we've come to expect. I mean, just the most fantastic player. The backstory to that was that Odegaard, at the end of last season, Real Madrid told Real Sociedad that they could have Odegaard on loan for another year, so that would be his third year on loan, and then all of a sudden they changed their mind and decided they wanted him back. So Real Sociedad are absolutely screwed at this point. Now, at this point, David Silva had announced that he was joining Lazio, or Lazio had announced that they were signing David Silva, but the deal hadn't gone through. So someone clever at Real Sociedad phoned him up and said, well, what about coming here instead? So he said, yeah, okay. And he did. And he nearly scored on his debut. It was superb. And it's great to see a really fantastic player and a great guy doing well. And I'm glad he's playing in the top league in Europe, and we'll continue to see him.
Yes, I like that. I do like that, because when there was all the fuss about him retiring, if you like, from Manchester City, and, of course, 10 great years there, what a servant for the club. And he left on very good terms. Guardiola was full of praise for him, talk about putting a statue up and all that. But he's one of their great players through the history of Man City. One of their biggest, greatest players. And it was great to see that he's gone on and done something else and doing it well. So good on him. I just want to go back to Wolves for a quick moment before we look at the upcoming games. You said Wolves looked good. They probably didn't deserve to get the draw, but they did look good in the second half. They were playing Manchester City in the same way Chelsea were playing Liverpool. So actually, they didn't do badly in the same way you say Chelsea didn't do badly. They lost 3-1 at home, but it was to Manchester City, and they will face 17 to 18 or other teams who won't be quite as hard to play against. So in the same way that Chelsea only lost to Liverpool, I don't think that result is a worry for Wolves at all. All right, there's a lot of Carabao Cup games or League Cup games coming up, but we won't bother to predict those, Geoff.
Well, no, because nobody cares. Nobody cares about Carabao Cup until semi-finals, do they?
And even then, really. All right, so we'll look at what's coming up in the Premier League. On Saturday, tasty fixture for me. Brighton against Manchester United. That could go, having watched Brighton and having watched Manchester United, that could go either way. It could go in Man United's favour because they're Man United, or it could go Brighton's way because they've played better than Man United so far.
Yeah, one of the strange statistics in this very long season we've had so far, both games, is there hasn't been a single draw, and we forecast about half the matches to be drawn. And my theory on these is to think about what the result I think it will be and then reverse it. But I've done that with all these draws, and it hasn't made any difference. You would have to say on form Brighton should win. But Manchester United didn't get a penalty, so they'll definitely get a penalty in this match, and they'll win away 2-1.
Yes, I'd like to see Brighton win that because they just looked very good the other day, but Man United look worse than they really are against Palace. I think they'll come good, and I think, 2-1's fair. Then we've got Crystal Palace against Everton. Both teams won both their opening games. I mean, draw. Let's go for. I'm going to go for a draw in that one.
Yeah, a draw is the sensible result, which of course means that's the one that isn't going to happen. I'll go for an away win, 3-2 away win.
Oh, that's quite interesting. Then we've got West Brom against Chelsea, which I think quite obvious, that one. Sadly for West Brom, I'm going to go for 2 or possibly even 3-0 to Chelsea.
Yeah, I'll agree with you, 3-0 to Chelsea, yeah.
Unless Kepa's playing. Unless it's very good, then it might be 3-1. Then we've got Burnley against Southampton.
Southampton win, 2-0.
All right, then on Sunday, interesting fixture, local derby, Sheffield United against Leeds. I think that looks like a draw, but I'm going to say 2-1 to United. Sheffield United.
No, we understood United, don't worry. Yeah, they're Leeds, aren't they? Oh, I don't know. You're saying 2-1 to Sheffield United? Yeah, I think I'll agree with that. Tottenham, Newcastle. It depends which Tottenham turn up. I'll say that will be a 1-1 draw, because I think the bigger impact on Tottenham's performance at the weekend was Southampton being very aggressive against them, and Newcastle won't be. So I think it's going to be a dull 1-1. I'm going to say it depends what Newcastle turn up, whether Tottenham win 2-0 or 3-0. But Tottenham may or may not have, it might be cancelled by the time we go on air, but Tottenham have possibly a Carabao Cup game tonight against Leyton Orient, 10 miles from the ground, and then we're going to travel all the way to Macedonia on Thursday. So by the time Sunday comes around, they could be very, very tired, that squad, although there's a lot of them, according to Mourinho. But I still think Tottenham will win that 2-1. Manchester City against Leicester. Oh, that's top of the table clash, isn't it? Manchester City, Leicester. I'll go for another away win, 2-1 to Leicester.
Wow, that's bold. I'm going to go for a draw. Manchester City should be stronger, but I think Leicester are looking good. And then we've got West Ham 0, Wolves how many?
Well, exactly, yeah. I don't know. The only good thing I can think of for West Ham going into this match is that Traore will be attacking Cresswell on the left, who is the better left back. If anyone attacks our right back, who is absolutely, completely useless, then we're screwed. Last week I said Moyes would actually get the players playing better because they can't play that badly again. So West Ham to win 2-1.
Wow, you think West Ham will beat Wolves 2-1? I'm still going to go with an away win for Wolves. Then we've got on Monday Fulham against Aston Villa. That's a team that nearly went down against a team that have come up and haven't won either of their first 2 games.
And the team that should have gone down if that goal for Sheffield United had been given. Yeah, I think Villa 2-1.
Yeah, I think probably Fulham are going to find it very, very tough this season. I'm going to agree with you, 2-1. And then finally Liverpool against Arsenal. We'll probably see how good Arsenal really are in that game. They've had it easy, as you said, in the first 2 games. They've got a proper team to play against. I'm going to go for 3-1 to Liverpool.
I was going to go 3-1 Liverpool as well.
We both think Arsenal will score because they've got Aubameyang, they've got Lacazette so far. So they probably get a goal, but their defence is weak, I think, and Liverpool are good. So, but yeah, 3-1. That's all we've got time for. Before we say goodbye, Geoff's trivia question and his answer.
Okay, the question was, Mo Salah hit a hat-trick in Liverpool's opening game of the season. Who was the last Liverpool player to do that? Do you want to have a guess?
I would have said John Barnes, but I don't know why.
You would have been wrong. It was John Aldridge against Charlton in 1988.
John Aldridge, brilliant. All right, that's all we've got time for. Until next week, I'm Chris Karle.
And I'm Geoff Saunders.
And that was Hitting the Bar, the football podcast.